You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.
We're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt. I have a great guest tonight, but before I get to that, I want everybody to be aware you can tune in tomorrow night for Paranormalities and Ponderings at 9 Eastern, 8 Central with our own Frank Lee. Wednesday night, you can tune in to Kat Hobson with Paranormal Experienced. And Thursday night, you can tune in to Starlight 17 Radio with our own Deborah Jane East. Friday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, you can tune in to Breaking Bread with Jesus with our own Jesus Payton. And Sunday night, Blackthorn Path with the two ladies, Annie G and Mumsy B. I love those ladies. Okay, our guest tonight is Tammy Ineich. Am I pronouncing that right, Ineich?
Ineich. It's German.
Ineich?
Ineich.
I'm just going to call you Tammy. How's that?
Okay.
Ya bull. Okay. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome everybody in the chat room. Dita, Tammy, Big Bird, William, Mars, CJ. Now, I always do this, and I just mentioned this before. I love to hear your reason for becoming a paranormal investigator.
Well, I saw my first spirit since, when I was 5 years old. I was playing out in my grandma's yard, and we had a corner store, a kitty corner from us, and it was all boarded up and locked up, and I saw a woman looking down at me from the store window. She was upstairs. There was like apartments upstairs, and I saw her looking down at from it.
Okay, she's looking down from the window, but she's a spirit.
Yes, she was sort of whitish.
Okay.
That's my first time experiencing something paranormal and things that happened to me all my life, so.
At the time that you saw this spirit, was there anybody living in that apartment up there? Or?
No, it was all locked up and boarded up. It had, on the bottom half, it had boards on the windows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then where did it go from there?
It's just so much has happened to me throughout my years. I used to see shadow figures. My family lived in old farmhouses, and I just saw things all my life. Things like my dolls would move on me. Just a lot of things happened to me throughout my life. It's so much that I can't explain it. We lived in old farmhouses, and just a lot of things happened. Mostly shadow figures. I saw shadow figures all, my whole life, growing up.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. I thought about this earlier today. I was chatting with Big Bird, and when you were a kid and you went to bed at night, because I did this, so I figure a lot of young kids did. You turn out your light, you get in your bed, you cover up,
Yes.
and you're laying there and you're looking around the room in the dark and you see these shadowy things and they appear to be moving around.
Mhm.
Okay, and of course, you tell your mom or your dad or whatever, there's things moving around in my room. Oh no, that's just a shadow of your coat hanging on the wall or whatever.
Mhm.
Did you ever think later on, like, man, even then I was seeing shadow figures, and nobody believed me.
Yeah. I was told I have an active imagination, but
Right.
these things were in my doorway, in my closet, at the foot of my bed. Sometimes they would shake my bed at night, and wake me up. Just a lot of things. There was a little boy that used to come to me as a child. He had blonde hair. So just a lot of things happened throughout my life. I lived, I lived in so many haunted houses all my life. I don't know where to start, because so much has happened to
I
me.
was wondering about that earlier today when I was talking to Bird, and I thought about that, and I'm like, now I did have an experience one time, and this was like, it's been a few years ago. A friend of ours got murdered up in Illinois,
Mhm.
and it was maybe 2 or 3 days after that. I was laying in the bed. I was by myself, and I had dozed off, and something shook the bed like they were bumping into the footboard of the bed, and woke me up, and there wasn't a soul in there. And I assumed that was him letting me know, hey, I'm still around,
Right.
But it was weird. And my wife, she's real, she's one of these sticklers for, put the toilet seat down, after you go, right?
Mhm.
She was in the shower one day, and I went in and used the bathroom, and I always put the toilet seat down. Well, she got out of the shower, and the toilet seat lid was up.
Huh. Interesting.
So, we just assume that it's him saying, hey, I'm here.
Right.
Although I don't know how much I think about even a male ghost being in the bathroom with my wife in the shower, but still, you get the point.
Yeah. Just growing up, how I used to see strange things all the time. One time when I was a child, I looked out my window because I lost my mood ring. I'm dating myself.
Now, rings, see, good God, I remember those things.
And I was hoping to see my mood ring outside the window. But instead, I saw this round circular gunmetal thing floating above my playground. The playground we used to have as a child. And it was just floating around. And I went to call my sister over to tell her about it. And I turned away quickly and looked back, and it was gone. And in the same house that we lived in, there used to be a lot of shadow figures on the porch when everyone was sleeping, because my bedroom was right next to the porch, and I used to see them all the time. My dolls used to move on its own. So, and one time I lined them up to prove that my dolls were moving, and the next day they were all messed up. I lined them up on my bookshelf because I knew my dolls were moving, and the next morning they were all moved around.
Did you ever, and this happened to me one time, and I still remember this. I used to have a It wasn't a teddy bear. It was some kind of stuffed animal figure, and I can't even remember now. It was like kind of, I want to say it was like a bear, but more kind of like a koala bear or something.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, it was on the shelf when I went to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And when I woke up, it was in the bed with me.
That's weird.
Yeah. And I'm like, I know that thing was on the shelf, because I remember, as I was saying, when you turn out the light, you see the shadows. You can see the shadow of the stuffed animal on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
But it was in my bed when I woke up.
That is strange.
And I hadn't thought about that in forever, but I remember.
And one time we lived in this farmhouse and a guy hung himself in the barn. And so my sisters and I used to see the guy swinging from the rafters when we went into the barn. We would just see him there hanging out, and, so much has happened. A lot of shadow figures in that house, just hanging out in the closet, really insects covering the windows in the dead of winter. It was a very strange, haunted location. And, what happened is this same house we lived in as children, I went on an investigation in another county, and the people asked me, they asked me where I'm from, and I told them where I'm from, and they said, hey, we have friends that live in this house, and they see a guy hanging from the rafters in the barn.
Wow.
And it was the same house that I used to live in.
Now that's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder where that echo's coming from.
I don't know.
Shadow people is much different than shadowy apparitions. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Bill W. in the chat room was saying that shadow figures and shadowy apparitions are different, and they are, because I've seen a shadowy apparition. I actually caught it on one of my cameras in a house that we were in. And I mean, when I say shadowy, it was almost transparent.
Right. I have seen several shadow things. I've seen shadow people. I have seen hooded figures with red glowing eyes. I've seen like black mist before. So I've seen all different types of shadow things.
Now I've heard, and I'm not an expert on shadow figures by any means. I know, I read stuff about them. I read a thing one time about the dark shadowy figures with the red eyes are kind of like psychic vampires. They steal your energy.
I don't know. Mostly the shadow people I've experienced have been just watchers. They like hanging out. I would say the mist and the ones with the hooded ones with the red eyes, they were very negative.
Mary Ann was saying here that the ones they see are almost solid black, but does anyone notice that they precede misfortune, accidents, or deaths and stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, the shadow figures, the hooded figures with the red eyes was definitely demonic in nature.
And I would think so, yeah.
And the mist they were definitely they were like clouds. I experienced the two clouds a couple of times in my lifetime. But the other ones just hang out and just watch. I call them watchers.
You have the ones that have the human shape, sort of.
Yes.
And then you have the ones that are like just a black mass.
Yes, the black mass ones are, in my experience, worse. Yes.
And I believe that the black mass is more of the evil type entity.
Right.
And, of course, with the red glowing eyes, that pretty much stands out.
Right.
You know, and then the rest are just like, you know, I don't know how you would describe them. They're just there.
Right.
I have one that hangs out in my bedroom, and it's been seen by my wife once. I've never seen it myself. I feel it. I know it's here.
Mm-hmm.
But she actually saw it about 3 o'clock in the morning one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the hat. You know, you've heard the ones with the hat. She said it had a hat, like a brimmed hat, like a cowboy hat.
Right.
And she said that she thought it was a black man standing in the corner over there. And at the time, I had all of my equipment in the kitchen before I brought it in here. And she said that she was laying here in the bed. She woke up. She's seen this. I was in the kitchen on the computer in there. And she said it looked like it was watching me, like through the wall. That it was paying attention to me and not her.
Mm-hmm.
Now she won't sleep in the bedroom. But I know it's here, and my dog also, whenever it decides to show up, my dog gets under my feet down here under the computer desk and don't move.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, and dogs are sensitive like that, you know, I mean, I don't know, it's never harmed me or anybody in the house. I don't know what she's afraid of, but whenever it's around, she'll get down there and she kind of just lays at my feet. William says, to know you saw something, but when describing what you experienced as what some would call spirit, what others will refer to as demonic. And that's true. Everybody has their own different way of looking at things, you know.
Yes.
I've never run across a demonic personally. Not saying that I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
No, if I do, I mean, I'll deal with it at the time, but so far I have not run across anything like that. I have been in a place with an angry spirit before.
Yes.
They can remind you a lot of a demonic.
Yes, and demonic cases are rare.
Well, if you listen to half the people on Facebook,
I know.
That house has got 500 demons in it. You know, I mean, you see that so much, you know. And I'm sure that they believe that, but, you know, it is a rare thing. You don't run across something like that, you know, every day.
Right.
Now, my team founder actually ran across one time. It threw him 15 foot out of the front door. But nah, I wasn't part of the team at the time. That's before I met him. He was telling me about him and his nephew and his wife at the time, and some guy they had took with them had went to an old house, and he said nothing happened when they were in there. Everything was fine. They all came outside and they were standing out by the car, you know, and talking and whatever. And he come out and got almost to the car and turned around and realized he hadn't shut the front door. And he said, somebody go close the door. We can't leave the door open, right? And nobody offered to move, so he went. And he said just about the time he went to pull that door shut, something picked him up and threw him about 15 foot out in the front yard. And they all saw it. I mean, literally airborne.
Right.
And he said, and I still got up and went back and shut that dang door. And, he said they all, when they saw that, he said instead of running to help him, they all run, got in the car. It was ready to go. I'm like, yeah, that figures. Something throws me 15 foot out of a door, y'all better come get me. Just saying, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, real quick here before we get too far into all this.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about your radio show and give them a link if you want to where they can come listen in.
All right. I am host of the Sisterhood of Women in the Paranormal. It's on dtmwickedradio.com, and it's every other Tuesday night at 6 p.m.
Is that Eastern or?
Eastern time, yes.
Awesome. Okay, so y'all go check that out. I've got something in my dang eye. I'm sorry, I'm kind of picking at my eyeball.
That's okay.
Excuse me. So, what would you say is the worst experience you've ever had on an investigation? What kind of, you know, and of course I want details, right? How many people ran and all this kind of stuff.
I haven't really come across anything that is really bad. There's a couple things where we've been swore at before and cussed out.
That seems to happen quite a little bit.
One is we investigated the Palmyra Historical Museum in Palmyra, New York. It's in the Finger Lakes area. And Bonnie Hayes is the manager of that store. And what happened was there's a general store there. There's 3 buildings you can investigate. And one is the general store. And we went into the general store. Now, mind you, the general store is all locked up and has an alarm system on it. So we went into the store to investigate the store, and upstairs there's apartments. We, as soon as we got in there, it smelled like cherry, pipe smoke. It wasn't smoky, but it was strong, like someone was just smoking it. And Bonnie and I searched all over the place. We could not find anyone. And then, so we went upstairs to the apartments and, we're investigating the apartments. And we got on recorder, 2 of my teammates, 2 of my investigators saw, this white mist trying to form. And they got on recorder saying, "Get the fuck out."
Dang.
Yeah. And it was a male voice, and it wasn't very nice. So that was quite interesting. And, you know, throughout the night, we saw various things, you know, in that investigation. Another time, I was with my old team, because I used to be case manager with another team back in 2010 and 11, before I formed my own team. And we were investigating a place up north. It was a residential case. And the spirit was bothering the boys of this family. And there were 2 little boys, and the spirit was bothering them. And so, one of the male investigators was up there with one of our psychic friends. And they were kind of confronting the ghosts. They weren't really provoking, but they were confronting them, saying, you know, we heard you, like, messing around with the boys that live here. And the ghost said to our male investigator, said the F word to him. And then said, do you want to touch me? And we did a little research on the thing, and I come to find out there was male pedophile that lived there.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was quite interesting. You know, and there's other cases where we investigated and other teams have gone in and claimed demonic. And these people are scared to live in their house, and we go in there and we don't find anything. So
that happens.
Yes.
You know, and that's one of the things in the field that bothers me is when you have teams that go in and scare the client half to death, telling them all this stuff and everything, you know. And in my opinion, you know, your job is to calm the client and help deal with the problem. You know, you don't want to go in there and scare them half to death. This happened in a house that we went into afterwards, where this so-called psychic had went in there and told them that they had 5 demons in their house and all this other good stuff. And of course, you know, we went and we found a lot of high EMF and all kind of stuff like that. And we've also found out that the clients were, well, let's put it this way. They showed, Dusty, our founder, their drawer they keep all their drugs in. But anyway, we won't get into all that. But yeah, I mean, she had went in there and told them they had 5 demons in there, and, you know, they were out to get the kids and all this kind. And we got a couple EVPs, nothing major, and it wasn't bad, you know. And a 15-foot invisible snake that Dusty had to wrestle out of the house and have his convict ghost kill it for her. But other than that, it was pretty calm. You know, and that bothers me when people do that, because, you know, people call you in because they want, what's the word I'm looking for here? They want to rest easy. How are they going to rest easy if you go in there, oh, you got 5 demons in here and they're out to get your kids and, you know, and blah, 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 blah. And then they leave them there like that.
I know.
Yeah. And, you know, and these people, they're like, and of course they don't come back and do anything according to get rid of these demons that are running around everywhere in the house.
Right.
So then they call, you know, somebody else like us, and we go and we don't find any of this stuff. We just find reasons why they might think they have a haunting going on.
Right.
You know, and so we go in, and our first job is to calm these people down. You know, we'll take care of the problem. You know, you don't have to worry, and you know, all that kind of stuff, and try to calm them down. And right. and of course, if you have people like these who are taking these different kind of drugs and stuff like that, and are always kind of in another world, you could have 1,000 teams come in there and do, you know, the best they can and everything, and they're still going to see and hear stuff because they're in another world. Like Billy the Kid said in the movie, you know, hey, did y'all know we're in the spirit world? You know, I mean, and right. That's going to happen, but, you know, it's just a point. Don't go in there and say stuff like that. Somebody's already scared to death. That's the last thing they want to hear.
Right. And what happened was the girlfriend was afraid to stay there because this team came in and claimed demonic, and they claimed their mirror. They bought an antique mirror, and they claimed the mirror was a portal.
Now, I have heard stuff like that. That, you know, mirrors can be used to, for spirits to enter in and out, but
we, didn't find anything when we went in there.
Right. Okay, we're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt, and my guest, Tammy. I won't go there. Glad everybody's tuning in. We'll get back into things, and I'm sorry. So the girlfriend won't stay there because
right.
They were told there's a demonic presence there.
She was scared to stay there, yes.
So did anything ever get straightened out with this, or?
Yes, we didn't find anything, and we told them we didn't find anything, and apparently the other team did a cleansing of the place, so. But we didn't find anything, and they accepted our findings.
So everything calmed down, the girlfriend come back home?
The girlfriend was relieved that we didn't find anything, yes.
But she didn't come back home?
No, she moved in, actually.
Oh, okay. Now, you you haven't dealt with any demonic entities like me. You kind of hadn't run across an actual demonic?
Not as a paranormal investigator, no. As a teen, yes.
So when you were a teen and you were dealing with this, you know, did anybody believe you? Did you have any support?
What happened was my family was homeless. And so I went to live with one of my girlfriends, and they were managers of a rock and roll band, a local rock and roll band. And I didn't know this at the time. They said they were witches. So I was thinking, okay, they're witches, that's cool, you know, no big deal. And there were a lot of drugs in and out of the house, actually. A lot of drugs. But they kept a lot of it hidden from me. And they were groupies because it was a mom and my friend and her sister. So it was 3 of them. And they were groupies to rock and roll bands that came into town, like Def Leppard and things like that. They were groupies, and they were managers of this local band. And they dealt drugs. And so what happened was they were part of a cult. And the band they managed was also part of this occult. And they would conjure things up. And I lived with them, and I slept in the living room on a cot. And I would see hooded figures with red eyes all the time, and they would surround my cot, and a couple times they would attack me, and just a lot of, I suppressed a lot of it, but I lived in like a horror house, basically.
Okay, Bill was asked, when dealing with demons, do you or any of us use Christian exorcists or demon hunters. I ask because I am not religious and would like to know how others deal with the demon kind.
Hi. Is he asking me?
I assuming he's just asking in general, but
Okay.
you know, and I'm sure there are demonologists who are not necessarily Christian based.
Right.
That's how I would figure they would handle it.
Right.
Demons are not something untrained investigators should try to cope with. There are those who have worked hard to learn about it. That's true.
Yes,
And that's
I
what
agree.
I'm saying. Not all of them are necessarily, you know, went and lived at the Catholic Church for, 4 or 5 years.
Right.
So I'm assuming there is a training to deal with stuff like that is not Christian based.
Right. I mean, I think so. I mean, I have some friends that are demonologists. Most of
Yep.
them are Christian based, though.
Yeah, and I think probably most of them are, but I would assume that the pagan side of things also has a way to deal with stuff like that.
Right. Or like Buddha or something.
Jewish folks also do exorcisms. Well, yeah, but Jewish folks are also, I don't know if you consider them Christians, but they're religious in the I believe in God type thing. Uh, so I don't know if that would be any different or not, but a good answer anyway.
I mean, I've heard of shaman dealing with demonic cases, but if you're not from a Christian belief, do you really believe they're demonic? That's the next question. You don't really believe they're demonic if you're not Christian, right? You just believe they're negative spirits.
That's a really good answer, because if you're not Christian based, why would you believe, if you don't believe in God, why would you believe in the devil and demons?
Exactly.
So if you choose not to believe in heaven and hell and demons and God, what would you call them? And
Negative.
Bill says negative entities, and that's
Yes.
true. But are there different types of negative entities? Like, I would call an angry ghost a negative entity.
I would call them angry.
Well,
I mean, there are bad people out there, and they will be bad as ghosts or spirits. There's bad people. They will be bad in the afterlife. But there's also this other thing out there that was never human. You can call them non-human, I guess. Negative non-human spirits. I don't know.
yeah. Now, see, that makes me wonder though. On the non-religious side, pagans, they have the god and goddess and all this, and if you have a god and goddess, you also must have the negative side of things,
Mm-hmm.
which would be their term for a demon, I guess.
Right.
So they should have ways of dealing with that negative demon-like energy or entity or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, William, I would look into that.
Right. I mean, I assume so.
I would think. I mean, it makes sense, you know. I've never had to deal with it, like I said, but it makes sense.
Right.
Now, would you say that these shadow figures could be like the non-religious type negative entity, if they're not in Christian-based demonic, they would be in non-Christian-based negative entity? But now they also, according to a lot of people, they are interdimensional beings.
Are you talking about the ones I experienced as a child?
I'm talking about in general.
I just call them watchers. I don't know what they are. I hear different varieties of what they are. Some I hear they're just spirits that never formed into what we look like. Others I hear that they're non-dimensional or dimensional from a different plane. You know, I experiences, they just watch. They watched me from the doorway. They watched me from the closet. They watched me sleep. I just call them watchers.
Not necessarily Wicca Mars or Wiccan or whatever, just saying that if you're not religious based and you're pagan based, you would probably have something similar to a demon, but you wouldn't necessarily call it a demon if you don't believe in heaven and hell and all that.
Right.
Are you still lost, Mars?
I don't know. I am Christian, so I call them, you know, those hooded figures demonic because they were, you know, they were conjured up by these people into this occult. And they weren't nice. They attacked me, and they did a lot to me.
So now it's brought up here by Bill, interdimensional beings is now a catchphrase in the UFO community. And I agree, a lot of them do kind of want to put the two together, but I think of them as separate entities.
Yes, I do too.
You know, you have interdimensional that come back and forth from another dimension, and you have, they say that aliens come from another dimension. That's how they're able to get here from where they are. But I think it's just because they're a lot smarter than we are, and they designed a better way of space travel.
Right. And I heard Bigfoot is not from this earth too.
Yeah, I've heard that too. He's interdimensional, and he's also brought here by aliens and all that stuff. Actually, you have to wonder, because Bigfoot can go into a lot of different stuff, but I think Bigfoot is basically kind of like a missing link sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that too.
You know, Gigantopithecus and human in between there somewhere.
Right.
But anyway, Bigfoot's an interesting conversation, but we're talking about ghosts and spirits and shadow figures and whatnot, and we'll leave Bigfoot in the woods for right now. Yeah, Mars, what is it? Waiting. Anyway, Mars obviously has something he wants to say. When he gets to it there, we'll figure it out. On any of the investigations that you've been on, you know, have you ever had like both kinds of entities present? Like, you know, your what we would call a normal ghost or spirit apparition thing, and shadow figures too?
Yes.
Do they seem to, what am I trying to look for? I'm trying to get to a point here. Do they seem to not want to be near each other, or do they seem to kind of be close?
It depends. You know, at Penhurst. I went to Penhurst recently. And this is my second time being at Penhurst. The first time I went with, it was an event. And so it was an event with John Tobin, and the next event was with Massachusetts Ghost Hunters Paranormal Society with Mark Arvilla. There's ghosts, there's supposedly spirits, lots of spirits in Penhurst, and I did see shadow figures in there too, so, and I don't know. The shadow figures seem to be mixed up with the ghosts.
Well, Bill had said that they interact with each other.
Yeah.
And, now, this question may sound a little odd, but do you think that one influences the other? Like the shadow figures may influence the spirits to act up, or?
I don't know. I never thought about that.
Okay, let me put it like this. If you have an angry spirit, as we were talking about earlier, an angry spirits, they can hurt you. They can throw things, they can push you, shove you, whatever. You think that the black masses or the shadow figures or whatever influence them to do bad?
I don't know. I never really thought about that. My experience has mostly been with the shadow things as a child.
William said he wants to go to Penhurst. Yeah, that'd be a good place for me and you to go, William. I'd love it. Man, that's on my bucket list big time. Matter of fact, that is the top of my bucket list.
Well, tell William, because I know William. Tell William he better ground before he goes in there.
Okay, so...
Because that energy is high there. Tell William that.
Oh, he can hear you. He's right here in the chat room.
William, you better ground yourself, because every time I go, I have to ground myself.
Yeah, and say you're entering prayers and you're leaving prayers, and make sure everything stays where it's supposed to.
Because the energy, as soon as you get close to the estate, the energy's really high. Extremely high there. So
I want to go to Penhurst alone. Well, someone that knows how to do EVP stuff as such, but no big team. And I agree. I wouldn't want like a 20-person team running all around contaminating everything.
Yeah. That's hard. Yeah. You can see, yeah. When you do big group events, there's a lot of contamination. Yes.
Mars says he has a shadow cat that passed and still see in the shadow.
That's cute. That's cool.
Yeah, I think your pets can come back also.
Yep.
And if they were comfortable there, they don't want to leave. So their physical body passes, but their spirit's still there, where they're loved and taken care of.
Yes, and I've experienced animal ghosts or spirits before. Yes.
Dita's got a lead foot. 135 mile per hour is not uncommon for me. If I had a vehicle that'd go 135 mile an hour, I'd be on a racetrack. Just saying. Okay, now I love interesting conversation. Bigfoot is interesting. Aliens is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow figures are really interesting because nobody really knows what they are.
Right.
A lot of people try to explain it, but nobody has absolute proof of what they are. How do you, if you see one with red glowing eyes and you can say it's a demon, okay, it's demonic. But do you really know that? No, you don't.
No.
I've read up on shadow figures, and everybody has their own explanation.
Mm-hmm.
But not in any of that stuff has anybody give me any concrete proof that they know what they are and where they really come from.
Right.
So shadow figures are always going to be interesting to talk about because you can't really place them. They have their own category. You can't place them in any of the other stuff. Now, if they interact with spirits, does that mean that they are spirits like them? No, it don't. If they are evil, and most people think that they are negative, I can see them influencing spirits to do things
Mm-hmm.
that they wouldn't on a normal basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when you're in school, and the peer pressure, well, if you don't do this, we're not going to like you, and you can't hang with us, and blah, 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 and get kids to do things they don't really want to do.
But also, you have to think that a negative and angry spirit can influence the other spirits, too.
That is true.
Somebody that was controlling in life could be controlling in the afterworld, too.
They can also keep other spirits from crossing over.
Mm-hmm.
We had an experience like that here in town where my daughter used to live. There was an angry spirit there that was keeping two other spirits from leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And which hopefully we got them sent off, I believe so, as far as this person. And it was a male figure, we know that. But I mean, I think he influenced the other two, which one was male and one was female.
Right.
And I got the impression that they were younger spirits, He influenced them to say things and stuff that they probably wouldn't have. Like I had an EVP saying, the female said, "Get him," and the male voice said, "We got him between us."
Mm-hmm.
And then the other EVP that I got, I think, was the angry or vindictive spirit. I was saying, "Where you hiding at?" And he said, "Right behind you," and had an evil little laugh at the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. But all they claimed to have seen was a shadow that would pass by in front of the doorway,
Mm-hmm.
And from that we found all this out, and we do know that there were three there. One was older and obviously wiser and controlling, and the other two were probably, I'm going to guesstimate, late 20s, maybe early 30s in age when they passed. And they were not hip to what he was doing, so they were just kind of like you'd be scared of a bully.
Right.
He told them they couldn't leave. They just assumed it because he said that they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that just goes to show you that stuff like that does happen, and it leans toward angry or negative spirits, not necessarily meaning shadow figures, black masses, stuff like that, can do bad things also. But
Right.
I think that the shadow entities, if they're around these spirits, they can make them do things that even they wouldn't have done. It's kind of like pouring a bucket of negativity on you and you just do crazy stuff. I could be wrong, just kind of what I'm not your textbook genius. I'm just an old school boy, but it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, on to other things. Investigations. How many of you that you know of, I don't know if you keep count of all of them, but how many have you done since you started doing this? Do you have a regular team that you investigate with?
Yes, I have my team, Salt City Paranormal Investigations. I had belonged to, I started investigating with teams in 2009.
Huh. That's about the same time I got into it. Well, no, actually, I got into it in 2002, but that's when I got with the Half Past Dead team that I've been with up until now.
Yeah. But I've been doing stuff on my own since I was 12, I think. Because I wanted to explain, I had my own Bigfoot club at 12. And I made my sisters and my cousins go out looking for Bigfoot. In the woods. We lived up in northern New York, and there were lots of woods, and I would take my sisters out there, and we would go searching for Bigfoot. And also, there's a place out north that my father used to cut wood in, and they say there's a vortex out there, and we used to go searching for Bigfoot when my dad used to go cut wood. And there's a town, apparently, and the people disappeared from the town, and no one knows why, and there's still ruins of the town there, and they can hear the church bells. It's called Happy Valley.
Wow. Marianne says, Tammy, I think that being psychic is a mix of a lot of abilities, depends on the mood at the time, which one is the strongest. And that could be so. I could see that. Where's northern New York? Where's northern New York, Mars says?
Up near Parrish, New York. Not as far as Watertown. It's called Happy Valley.
Happy Valley.
It's a national forest up there.
Oh, cool.
No, a state forest, I'm sorry.
A friend of mine went hunting with his uncle one time in the woods, and he swears up and down that Littlefoot come up behind him. He said Littlefoot because he said it was like maybe about 6 foot tall, and it was black. He said he thought it was a black man in a fursuit.
Huh.
But he said that he jumped up and run toward where his uncle was in a tree stand, and Littlefoot ran in the opposite direction over the hill and disappeared. And he said it only took him like about 3 seconds to be out of sight.
Huh.
So we have Bigfoot and we have Littlefoot. And anyway, and there are smaller versions of what we refer to as Bigfoot, like, you know, the urine pen deck is supposed to be only 5 foot. So that's interesting. But anyway, we're coming up on our hard break here. We're going to take a 4 or 5 minute break, refill your coffee cups, all that good stuff. Wine glass, beer glass, whatever you're drinking. I know William's throwing back some cold beers over there. We will be back in a few minutes. Don't nobody leave. And you are on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt, and our special guest, Tammy. Just Tammy. You have to teach me how to pronounce that other part.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.
And we are back. We were talking about disembodied voices because I read Dita's question there. Yes, I have heard a disembodied voice once, you understand. It said I ain't staying. because we said they had to go back, they couldn't stay with us. And that is very unique. I'd always heard of people hearing disembodied voices. If you ever watched Ghost Hunters, they talked about that a lot in there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I actually heard one myself, I thought, so that's what they were talking about, disembodied voices, just comes out of nowhere.
Right.
And it will freak you out. Only this sounded like an older female, like maybe in their 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't know. And kind of like a sweet little old grandma voice.
Mm-hmm.
And said, I ain't staying. And we were like, did you say that? No, I thought you did. And my recorder did pick it up. I played it back and you could hear it plain as day. I hear them 2 or 3 times a month. Well, I can't say I do. I'd kind of freak out if I did, I guess, if, they're always talking to me. But, I'm usually doing mundane tasks, so you're preoccupied and all of a sudden you hear stuff. Is that what you're saying, Dita?
Huh.
I had to get a ice reef. Why I did an EVP in my room, I was so relieved that I wasn't crazy. True. You hear something like that, and if I hadn't been used to listening to EVPs and stuff, for a pretty good while, it probably would have scared me half to death. I was just, thrilled, I guess, that I got my first disembodied voice that I actually heard come out of the air, and I'm like, wow, that's what it sounds like. But anyway, where were we when we left off?
We were talking about Happy Valley.
Happy Valley.
Yes.
And
Bigfoot.
And Bigfoot,
like
yeah. And Littlefoot.
Littlefoot.
And Littlefoot, yeah. Can't leave him out. What about, just throwing this out there for getting some shiggles, what about UFOs? You ever seen any?
No. Not at all. Just mostly spirits.
Okay, just about everybody has seen something that they can't explain in the sky before, and I just was curious if you had ever seen anything. I actually did one time. Like 5 big orange spherical shaped, looked like planets.
Interesting.
In a straight line, and they were just like hovering over this little country store where I used to go a lot. And I was getting out to go in, and this woman had come out to get in her car to leave, and we both saw them. And she's like, what is that? And I'm like, I have no clue. And about that time, they shot off, and in 3 seconds, they were out of sight.
Huh.
And we didn't have anything, because this was in the early 80s. We didn't have anything that fast or shaped like that I know of.
Right.
So, I did have my one experience that I can say I actually saw what I would deem UFOs, but.
Right.
And I brought those up because we were talking about, some people saying that Bigfoot and UFOs are related, and Bigfoot and dimensional things are related, and hey, Bigfoot gets around, don't he?
Yes, he does.
He's an alien, he's an interdimensional being, he's a government psyop, whatever you want to call him, but he gets around a lot. I think it's like I said before, I think he's just a missing link.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating that all these other cultures see Bigfoot too, just not us in America. But, they have different words for it, like, the Native Americans and,
well, yeah, a lot of the Native American, cultures knew that Bigfoot existed.
Right, and then...
So, live with him for generations,
And then, like, Yeti, The Yeti.
The Yeti is just another Bigfoot.
Yep.
Sasquatch, Yeti, skunk ape.
Skunk ape.
The skunk ape is the Texas and Florida, I think, area where they claim to see the skunk ape.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Sasquatch is a Native American term. There's other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. The Yeti, I think, is like the abominable snowman. Himalayas.
Right.
There's so many of them.
There is.
Got my anti-spyware thing running here, and it just finished. So, but anyway, there's so many different terms and names for Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
So many locations that Bigfoot has been seen in, and
right.
Man, you talk about Bigfoot for a long time and never finish talking about Bigfoot. Texas has Biggie Creek Men. I don't think I ever heard of that one. I've heard of the Boggy Creek creature, but that was in Arkansas, I believe. Boggy Creek, I think that's in Arkansas. Texas has the skunk ape.
Right.
I think in Florida also. But mainly you hear the skunk ape, I think, in Texas. But and there's another name, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's close to the Himalayas, but it's not frozen like the Himalayas. It's more of like a forest, mountainy forest type area, and they have basically the same creature in that area, but it's not called the Yeti. And I can't think of it off the top of my head what it's called right now.
Interesting.
Oh, the Falk monster is the Boggy Creek creature, and it is in Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken. Bill says, I believe that when someone is able to hear these voices, they are tuned like a radio to a specific frequencies to hear this, and that's a possibility. I never thought of that. Watch your language. Dita's a nut. Skookum. Yes, CJ brought up Skookum, which is another name for the Bigfoot. In the Falk area of the creature, I think was, and they actually did a movie called Skookum with one of the guys that I interviewed that was a Bigfoot hunter. Him and he was actually in the movie. He had a small part in the movie, and I think he was also what do they call that? The movie was based on an experience kind of that he had with Bigfoot.
Huh.
And I'm trying to say Mike Woolley, that was his name. And you should hear his story about the encounter that he had. Man, that was crazy.
Interesting.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, that was a good interview, and the way he explains, what happened and everything, and he said he had one of the really stout-built iron frame tree stands that you mount against a tree or something. And he said that he had this thing chained to the tree so that nobody couldn't steal it. Well, after he had his experience with 3 of them, he got a buddy to go back with him to get his deer stand because he didn't want to, it's expensive and he didn't want to leave it there. And when he got there, it had been wrecked, basically. Now, we're talking about a very stoutly built metal framed deer stand. That had actually been, like, damaged pretty bad. And I doubt that somebody just went, number one, they wouldn't have been strong enough to bend metal like that. But I doubt if somebody would have just went out there, oh, well, you know, they got a deer stand where I want to put mine, so I can't get it down because it's chained. I'll just beat it up. You know, I mean.
Huh.
I'm trying to read here in the chat room to see if I'm missing anything, but, yeah, he told about that and how he was pretty much chased out of there. And he said that he always, from experience, whenever he would go to a woods or something, he would always turn his truck around, headed out before he would go to his deer blind so that, you know, because usually it's dark when you come out. You don't want to try to turn around on a little dirt or gravel road, you know, in the middle of nowhere. So he would always turn his vehicle around and leave it like, you know, a quarter mile or so from where he went into the woods at.
Yeah.
And so he had to get back to this truck with this thing chasing him in the woods along the side of the road. And then he said he looked back and there were 2 of them on the road, actually, you know, a pretty good ways back. But they were like, you know, coming towards him, and he was running. He said, I didn't take time to worry about it. He said, I didn't take time to worry about nothing. I threw my gun in the back, jumped in the truck, and I was gone. But you think about, you know, Bigfoot like that. You know, is he really? Because you hear all the different stories. Bigfoot's a gentle creature, blah, blah, blah. And then you hear the ones, Bigfoot attacks so-and-so, or...
Yeah.
Well, which one is he, or is he both?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You know, I mean, is he the gentle type unless you tick him off? You know, because he said he was in the deer blind, and he said, I saw something that had a mannish appearance. He said, I wasn't going to shoot it because what if it was a man? He said, but I pointed the gun towards him and looked through the scope so I could get a better vision, and apparently he didn't like me pointing that gun at him.
Right.
And that's when, you know, he kind of started getting berserk, I guess. So that makes me wonder, you know, are they gentle creatures and you tick them off and they go berserk and attack people, or?
I think he's just defending himself.
And that's a good possibility. I have to apologize. I seem to have a little bit of a runny nose going on.
Do you have hay fever?
Not really bad. I mean, when the pollen was real bad early this summer, I did have a lot of nasal problems, and you know, the eyes wanting to water a lot and stuff, but it calmed down after a while. I don't know what's going on right now, but anyway. So we've discussed Bigfoot to an extent. We've discussed shadow figures. We've discussed spirits.
Right.
What have we not discussed?
I know.
I mean, there's got to be something we left out here somewhere.
Huh.
Now, a good question would be, how would Bigfoot and spirits interact together?
I don't know. That is a good question.
I never thought about that. What if, and in some of the woods and stuff where battles took place, there were people killed in the woods and stuff. There's probably spirits still lurking around in some of these woods. Has Bigfoot ever seen one? And, how did he react to it if he did?
I think there's a lot of things in the woods that we don't know about. You know what I mean?
Okay, Kat brought up a really good question, and I meant to ask you about this earlier because I've heard different things about it. Spirits and ghosts. What would you say is the difference between a ghost and a spirit?
I would say a ghost is a human form and a spirit can be non-human or human.
And as far as I would think...
Or energy.
Yeah, well, now, I believe that all spirits are energy, all ghosts are energy. We are all energy.
That's true.
A spirit, I think, can manipulate things more so than a ghost necessarily would. I think maybe spirits are where you get your poltergeist activity. A lot of things get moved around, stuff like that. Your typical ghost is, and a lot of people think that a ghost is nothing more than a residual haunting. Like the tape player playing over and over.
But a lot of people use those interchangeable, so, ghost, spirit, entity. An entity can be any life form.
Enoch said ghosts are real spirits come in a bottle. Not those kind of spirits, Enoch. Of course, you drink enough of those kind of spirits, you'll think you can do things too. Just saying. I used to think I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I got enough Jack Daniels in me, but found out that wasn't true.
A spirit and a ghost is interchangeable with most people. Along with entity.
Kat says, I think ghosts are people who haven't crossed. Spirits are those who have but chose to come back to visit or explore. That's a very interesting thought. Bill says there's that vocabulary thing.
Yes.
That's another good question. Do you believe that spirits or ghosts can cross over and come back?
Yes. I believe things can come back, cross over, come back. But then you have to then you have to look into angels. Don't angels come back?
That depends. If you're a religious person and you believe in angels and God and demons and hell, then I would think so.
Yes, and I believe in angels because I'm Christian.
So, if you're not a Christian and you're a pagan, do you still believe in angels?
I don't know.
And if you don't believe in...
But some of my friends who are into Wicca believe in angels. So.
Ghosts are people that have not yet passed over. Spirits are people that have passed over and come back. Is that what I'm getting, William?
I think it's interchangeable. And entities is interchangeable. If you look in writings, people use, ghost, spirits, entity, all the same. There's no true expert on what a ghost is, what a spirit is, or what an entity is.
Okay, Bill, I think I understand what you're saying there. But now a good question is, if pagan people do believe in angels, wouldn't they also believe in demons?
That's true.
Because demons are fallen angels, am I not correct? Boy, it got quiet in here all of a sudden. That would be a handy word being used. Now, I reiterate, if pagan people believe in angels, wouldn't they also have to believe in demons, since they are the same thing, basically, just demons are fallen angels?
Right.
And if you get into that, you can get into a whole new ball of wax. Angel equals energy. Okay, so if you're referring to angels as energy, wouldn't demons also be energy?
Oh,
He said the words we use are religiously useful. Okay, that makes sense. Angels would be what we would refer to as good energy. Demons would be referred to as bad energy. Evil energy, yes. So, man, you can,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that, you can get into a lot of different stuff if you go that way.
Yeah.
Enoch said his ex-wife is a demon. They are all determined by their intent, right? Be it good or bad.
That's true.
She needs to meet my ex, Enoch. So, Dita's basically saying that, her ex is a demon and, his ex is a demon, and they need to get together and become Mr. and Miss Demon. See, this is why I have a hard time with our conversations. Not really, William. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I'm just throwing out possibilities here because this subject is really not talked about very much. So, I have to wonder about things like, if demons are fallen angels and you believe in good angels, you'd have to believe in the bad angels and therefore demons, and you can call them negative energy and positive energy or whatever you want to call them, but it's basically the same thing.
Right.
Bill said she needs to meet my ex as well. They could form a coven of Shakespearean pot stirrers. Oh, Lord. Okay. Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Yes, ma'am, Cat. Are they taking calls? Are we taking calls? We will take some calls right after the call letter break here in a couple of minutes. If anybody wants to call in and present their case or what have you. 716. And I forget. Good Lord. Where am I? Okay, Dita, throw the call numbers up. I can't remember. I'm having one of those brain issues.
Mm.
745-4266, yes. Okay. It was the 745 part that I couldn't remember. I don't know why. Anyway, we're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt, and our special guest, Tammy Ineich. And I got it right.
Woohoo!
Okay. Anybody wants to call in, has a question, or wants to make a point of view or whatever, 716-745-4266. Give us a ring. Ring, ring. Just kidding. Where's Youngstown, New York? It's up there close to Niagara Falls and close to Buffalo. I don't think it's that close to Buffalo, but close to Niagara Falls and the lake. Which lake is it, Erie? Syracuse. Logically, I would not like to meet one of the Biggie angels. God used them to kick people's butts and destroy cities. Are we talking about the Archangel Michael? "45 minutes from Buffalo on Lake Ontario." There you go. Yeah. Okay. William, I thought you were going to call in. We're waiting here for you. Anyway, Bigfoot, ghosts, angels, demons, negative, positive. We've covered a lot of ground. So, you have to ask yourself if a Bigfoot, okay, and this is going to sound crazy, but I'm just saying, if a Bigfoot was, we talked about them being gentle, and we talked about them being vicious.
Uh-huh.
Let's just say that you had a Bigfoot that was vicious in life and he passed away. Would he be a vicious Bigfoot spirit? Do their spirits linger?
I don't know.
I've never thought about it until now. If a Bigfoot dies, does his spirit stay behind? And if so, does he mess with people out in the woods?
I don't know.
And you gotta think that would be funny now if you had, like, say a group of Bigfoot hunters and they're out stomping through the woods trying to find Bigfoot, and his spirit that they can't see is crashing stuff around out there and making them look, and they don't see anything. That would be interesting. William wants to know if I'm off my meds again. That's a possibility. But Enoch says, I think Bigfoot uses portals. And see, that's one of the things I've heard. Interdimensional portals,
Right.
what have you.
That's why we can't find them.
And Jesus Payan, who was my guest, we were talking about that. And he says that bodies have been found.
Really?
But they're always covered up before the public gets a chance to know about them.
Interesting.
Now, you got to ask yourself, why would the government, military, what have you, go out of their way to cover up a Bigfoot body that's been found or whatever?
I don't know.
Bigfoot's the best hide-and-go-seek player ever. That's true. I saw that on Facebook, William, the little post of Bigfoot, the hide-and-go-seek champion, or something like that. I still say, like Mary Ann says, I think Bigfoot's the missing link, but I still, I say if there's a body that's ever been found that wasn't covered up for whatever reason, you would think that whoever found it would be a millionaire by now, and that this thing would have made its way through all the museums across the world, as a museum piece. Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, the people that wanted to find out what he's made of has done tore him apart, and there's nothing left but a skeleton, and even that would have made its way to the museum, you would think.
Right.
So the whole dimensional thing makes sense. If they were dimensional, one of them dies, what's going to happen? They don't want to be examined or known what they are, where they come from. Another one's going to come through this portal or dimension, grab this thing up, maybe one or two of them, and take it back to the other side where nobody's going to find any evidence. Of course, you have the people that find the hair samples and all that stuff. And why is it that, and we even talked about this when I talked with Jesus Payne, why is it that you can collect a hair sample, you can go out of your way to make sure it's not contaminated, put it in something, seal it up. But when it makes it to the laboratory to be tested, there's something wrong with it. It's got DNA that don't belong in there. There's something. There's human DNA found in there. There's chimpanzee DNA or whatever found in there. And there's a DNA strand that they can't tell you what it is.
Right.
But none of them ever say, well, it's a link between the two, and this is the missing link everybody's been looking for.
Right.
I think Bigfoot just is. If UFOs are seen when there is a sighting, it is because they too would like to investigate one. Elusive critters. That makes sense too. Maybe they're just interested.
Mm-hmm.
And from everything that I've read, heard, seen, whatever, they are very intelligent creatures.
I think so, yes.
So if they don't want to be found, they're not going to be found.
Right.
There's still plenty of places they can hide in. If they are dimensional, just zip back over to the other side, wait till the people that are hunting a certain area go away, then come back. And they may be seen on their way to the portal, a brief glimpse. That's where people get the, yeah, I saw a Bigfoot. Did you really see a Bigfoot, though? The only film that I've ever seen of a Bigfoot that they're still today working on because they can't debunk it completely is the Patterson film.
That's true.
So, is that actual proof that Bigfoot exists? Nobody's going to say that it is because they're still busy saying it's a hoax. What does everyone find it so hard to believe that Bigfoot exists when Melba Ketchum has DNA tested in 10 different laboratories that say they exist? Well, they didn't say that it was a Bigfoot. Basically what they're saying is that there's DNA there that is humanoid but not human. Primate also, and a third strand of DNA that they can't tell you what the heck it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't say, yeah, it's Bigfoot. And they're not going to say that because who wants the big secret to get out? Yeah, Bigfoot's real.
Right.
Most of us know that Bigfoot exists, but, the public at large is going to say, oh, this is all a hoax. There's no such thing as a Bigfoot. Why they never found a body and all this good stuff, blah, 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 blah. Uh, 6 million ways you can look at that. Something always survives catastrophe. Yeah, cockroaches. You could blast them with a freaking atom bomb and they'd still be here.
That's true.
I ain't kidding. I watched a movie one time. It was the aftermath of the Earth was destroyed, and they had these bunkers with these vehicles in there, and they would get in these vehicles and go out, you know, to the whatever was left of the cities and all that, you know, looking for survivors, I guess, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in this one place, and cockroaches had mutated, and they were like big cockroaches. I mean, them things looked like they were about 2 inches long, about an inch wide, and they couldn't crush one. He tried to stomp one, and you couldn't crush it. I'm like, yep, them suckers could survive a Holocaust. They can survive anything.
That's true.
Not because it's Ketchum, but because laboratory proof says she's onto something. The point is, she, I'm sure, had hardcore evidence, but it's not ever going to be released to the public to where they can say, you know, it's actual Bigfoot, because somebody doesn't want that information out.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't matter if she, you know, and who's to say that if she actually tried to get this information out with solid proof, that she wouldn't disappear like everybody else does whenever somebody doesn't want something known.
Right.
Sherry Winkies? What the heck? Has Tammy seen only hooded shadow people? Did she ever encounter the hat, cape, shadow person? That one always gives me the creeps.
I work in a nursing home, and I encountered the tall man with a hat. Yes. It walked behind me one day.
The one that was seen here by my wife was I guess what you would call the hat, caped type shadow. From what she described, that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Twinkies. Bill said Twinkies. Not Yankees, Twinkies. Now that's what the zombie hunter guy was looking for in the movie, is Twinkies. he wanted a Twinkie really bad, I'm telling you. You know, all the way through this, killing all these zombies and everything, to get to what? A Twinkie? Okay. Anyway. Is that entity extreme evil?
What?
I wouldn't think so. The one here hasn't never done any harm.
The hat guy, the shadow hat guy, the tall man with the hat, he is seen by our residents that pass away, along with a little boy in a yellow raincoat.
Wow.
Before they pass away, they see them. I seen the tall man with the hat walk behind me one day.
Bill says Twinkies and cockroaches, they are going to survive the apocalypse. That's true. Well, if a Twinkie survives and I survive, I could live off a Twinkie. Or two. I have to give my friend a link of this archive when it's up. I want to hear what she says when other people have seen the hat and cape guy. Did she do the tradition of opening a window after someone passed?
I don't, the windows can't really be opened in the nursing home very much because they're afraid of the resident like falling out of the window. So they only can be open a crack. And when the resident passes, I'm usually not on the floor because I work in therapeutic recreation. I'm not a nurse.
Okay, Mars said he's worked in nursing homes for 20 plus years. So the open window, I have heard of this, and I have too, William. Now, I will tell you this is a true story. When my mother passed, we were in the ICU when she passed, and I had to get out of that room, so I went out front. My younger brother and my nephew were outside, and he told me that he knew when she passed because it was a rainy day, the sky was all covered in clouds, and a small opening opened up in the sky there over the hospital for like, a few seconds and then closed back up.
Huh.
So is that saying that her soul was accepted into heaven and that she's, with God or whatever, if you believe in that? But anyway, they both said that they saw it, and it's like just before I came out, so that would have been the right time.
Huh.
The old wives' tale was also an Irish way to return the recently dead to the other side. Yes.
Yes.
Marianne says mom actually got kicked out for cussing and setting off the emergency door alarms. I know a guy here, and this doesn't fit into all this, I don't guess, but elevator don't quite go to the top, but now he's smart in political stuff and anything news related. He saved every newspaper he ever bought, and he listens to the radio shows, news related, watches it on TV. So, I mean, he's smart as a tack on all that stuff. You can ask him anything about any of that, he can tell you. But on a normal day-to-day basis, couldn't pour a pea out of a boot with instructions on the hill saying turn up. Get my drift?
Right.
Anyway, my landlord owned the house that he was staying in, and he couldn't afford to pay rent. He was always behind. She was trying to get him help because she cared about him. Well, they said they couldn't help him as long as she was letting him live there because he had a roof over his head and all this stuff. So she basically had to kick him out to get him help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they sent him to this place up in Nashville, and one of their rules was you couldn't leave the area. You had, you couldn't leave the I don't know if you call it a hospital or whatever, but you couldn't leave the grounds.
Right.
He decided he wanted to go to the library up in town, so he just walks out, and gets him a ride, hitchhikes or whatever to the library. And they kicked him out for breaking the rules. So then they got him in another place, and I think he got kicked out of that one for something. He didn't follow the rules there either. and this went on and on and on. I don't know where he's at now. He's at some place up there, around up there somewhere, but I don't know which place he's in now. Okay. Marianne says she's a handful, even has an imaginary boyfriend that's going to come and take her to Jamaica. Okay. I like that one. And Dita says that's her escape from this world. That's probably true. Kind of like Delta Dawn, the song, if anybody remembers that one. Gotta love dementia, yeah. But, now we had a friend that was in the nursing home here, and we went to visit her one day. And there was this little lady. She probably stood 4'3" or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
Caller, you're online.
Hey, Roger, it's Mars.
Hey, Mars, what's up?
All right. I'd like to talk to your guest.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
I really was excited to hear that you worked in nursing homes because I too am an ex nursing home and hospital worker
Nice.
for 20 some odd years. And after working in nursing homes, you definitely know that there is an afterlife. What I'm asking you is, I don't know how much you were involved with the residents of the nursing home at the time of their passing, but I was a CNA, which is a certified nursing assistant, and we were right there with them until they passed, and it's like how many times I heard them say that they could see their husbands, or they could see their wives, or they could see family members that have passed before them and everything, and it's really awesome. I'm wondering, did you get to experience any of that?
I work in therapeutic recreation, so I am not there when they pass away usually.
Right.
But I do know that in the nursing home I work in now, before they pass, they see a little boy in a yellow raincoat or the tall man with a hat, and they do talk to the little boy, the nurses tell me. And most of the people in the nursing home know I'm a paranormal investigator, so they tell me their stories all the time.
See, that was going to be my next question now. How much have you experienced of, say, residents that have passed who haven't left spiritually the nursing home itself?
There is some energy in some of the rooms, but other places there's no energy. It feels heavy in it feels heavy in some of the rooms, and other places it doesn't. So there's pockets. But anywhere I go, I feel pockets of energy, or if I'm just driving down the street, I can tell which house has a lot of heavy energy and what
right.
house doesn't. So,
right. See, we used to have a lot of nursing homes that I worked in. They used to have a tradition, and I saw that you commented on it. But yes, also our windows didn't open much at all. But it was a lot of the aides insisted that you had to crack the window open. I do not know the reason because I found it a little bit ridiculous. But, these were old-time CNAs and LPNs, and, they insisted, so we did it.
The idea was to let the spirit pass so it wouldn't be locked in the...
There you go, Roger. There you go.
Right. I only heard about it a couple of times, and the CNAs that opened the window were directly from Africa.
Okay, well, I'm up here, you said northern New York. That's why I asked, because I'm in Niagara Falls, not too far from where CJ is. CJ's probably about 20 miles from me, more north than I am. But, yeah. Okay, well, thanks a lot. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. It was a pleasure for sharing. Thanks, Roger.
You're welcome. Anyway, that was a tradition and it is an older tradition, about cracking the window, let the spirit out so they won't be trapped, earthbound.
Mm-hmm.
And, they didn't open any windows when my mom passed, but she still managed to, leave the building. At least we believe that's what she did. But anyway, all that's very interesting. And, is there any other traditions that you know of as far as rituals when someone passes? Besides the cracking of the window or whatever?
No, not that I'm aware of, no. Like, I heard people cover the mirrors sometimes.
Right, yeah.
In the windows.
Because they said the spirit can be trapped in the mirror.
Yes.
Wow, and I wouldn't have thought that if you hadn't mentioned it, but yeah, I've read about that stuff. I've even seen videos where it talks about that, and it shows, they had all the mirrors covered.
Yeah.
Now, I have a weird question. This involves abandoned houses.
Yes.
There's cases where people will leave everything.
Uh-huh.
And it stays this way for years and years and years. You could go in there today and their furniture would still be laid out just like it was.
Right.
Maybe even a meal on the table, that was left there, because they left in such a hurry. And you figure something like that would have to be ghost related or something,
Mm-hmm.
Something terrified these people enough that they left, didn't look back, just left everything. Beds still made, clothes still hanging on the wall or in closets, all that stuff, And then you see cases where you go into a house that's been abandoned and all the furniture's covered with sheets and stuff.
Right.
What is that all about?
I don't know. I always thought the sheets were there for dust.
Dust covers or something?
Yes.
And if you notice, it's always white sheets. You don't ever see polka dotted ones or ones with lines on them or, flowers or any of this kind of stuff. They're always white sheets. Maybe that's where they got the whole ghost sheet thing, from.
Huh.
Interesting thought, huh?
Yes.
Okay, well, just remember something. My friend's mom was dying, and they brought her home. My friend's mom and I walked outside. There was a huge shadow that flew over top of us like a giant bird, no clouds, and a bright and sunny day. A few minutes later, that's when she passed, right? Marianne, is that when she passed, like after this thing flew over? Well, anyway, abandoned houses are well abandoned. I would ascribe to the condition to the belief that the previous owners were coming back. Maybe so. Yeah, maybe that's why they covered everything up. They planned on coming back. They just never did.
Right.
Okay, and Marianne said, yeah, that's when she passed. So now I've heard stories from people about a black crow circling their house. And like after this bird would circle their house, someone in that family would pass away. But the bank had a different idea. What? Well, yeah, the bank decided, no, we're going to foreclose this thing. But if that's true, did they just not want to sell it and recoup their money? Why does it sit there abandoned for years and years and years?
What house?
Or we're just talking about in general, these houses that you see this stuff in. Is it that everybody knows about it and knows it's haunted and they're saying, I ain't buying that place? The shadow was bigger than a car. Huge thing. Wow. That's interesting. Anyway, we got a couple of minutes left. This has been awesome. I've enjoyed this. If you have any links you want to put out, like to your radio show or your Facebook, website, whatever.
Okay.
This would be a good time to do that. bank took the house that was full of covered furniture. Okay. Why didn't they sell it and get their money back? Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. CJ, Mars, Kat, Dita, of course, Tammy, Big Bird, Enoch, William, Marianne. It's been an awesome time. I appreciate all you guys tuning in, everybody on your iPads, iPhones, computers, etc. Couldn't do a show without you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tammy, for coming on with us tonight. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm sure Bigfoot did too.
Thank you.
Shadow figures in the background there. But we will see y'all next week. If my mind does not escape me, and sometimes it does, we have an author coming on, and she works with Karen Vance Hammond. And they co-authored some books that I can't, off the top, Secrets in the Shallows, Devil in the Details. I think there's another one, I'm not sure on that. But I have a hard time pronouncing her last name. Kimberly Huddle Brulette, something like that. Brulette. It's one of those names like yours, Tammy, that that last confused me a little bit. Thanks, Tammy. Great show. Aw, thanks, Marianne. You're a sweetie. What, Chris D. Seizure? How do you pronounce that?
Desiree or something, Desiree. Don't ask me.
Desiree.
I'm gonna butcher it. Desiree, yes, Desiree. Yes.
I'm a hoot, okay. Yeah, I know. Anyway, thanks, Mars, everybody. We're running a minute past, so we're gonna kick on out of here. We'll see y'all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Night, everybody.
Night.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.